computer, and I will avoid the 5-day delay. Right, welcome back everyone.
Howdy, howdy.
Okay, there you are. So I wore another shirt for you tonight, so just, you know, just to get you going. So what I have to do is, because if you've read the notes, you've seen my mind's been on a few other things really this week. So I'm going to do the lecture live now. I'm going to record it, just talking about concrete blocks. It should be very exciting, and I'll probably go through it quite quickly actually. When I was looking at the essential readings, these have got everything in. I mean, if you know that, you're laughing, really. So let's share screen. That one there. Share the screen. Click that up to big. And we'll just get rid of that. You don't want to see that bit there. How do I get rid of this bit? Can I get rid of that bit? Oh, it doesn't matter. So we're going to have a quick look at concrete blocks. This should also, really, I should have included calcium silicate bricks and blocks. But I'll send you a little 5-minute video just on those tomorrow, because I've got it here. I just have time to type it on at the moment. So the first question we've got to ask ourselves about these concrete blocks, I'm assuming most people know what they are. They're generally more economical than bricks because they're bigger. The standard size is equivalent to 3 courses of brickwork, including the mortar joint. So you use a lot less blocks and they're a lot quicker to lay. So that's part of the reason why people like using them. So concrete block, well, like bricks, they're like dimensionally controlled little building elements that you can pick up. Most of them you can pick by hand, but they do manufacture some much larger ones. But you would normally come across, what are these normal ones here? So, you know, there's a hollow one. There's one that's meant to be seen, like that one is there. So they're just laid lap joint most of the time. Different hollowness there. You can use them as pavings. That's the grasscrete, I would call that. Using it for car parks and roads. You can put reinforcement in the cavities and fill them with concrete to make one homogeneous structure, which is actually very, very strong. There's a standard corner joint for them. So they are good, but big ones you can't hold. You get a mixture. You can have solid ones, or you can have ones that are hollow. Most that are used above ground level are hollow. Not totally, but generally they're mostly hollow. Below ground level, you can use them from the concrete foundation up to the damp-proof course or the termite barrier. They tend to be solid. Obviously, being used below ground where it's damp obviously gives you a hint they might be quite frost resistant and don't have a large thermal absorption rate. Otherwise, you couldn't use them down there. But you have to use the right category. Some of them in those gaps, in these gaps in here, they can be filled with some thermal insulation, some polystyrene if you want to. They work reasonably well, except if you imagine, say, this brick here we're looking at, this block, this is the outside and it's lovely and cold, and this is the inside where we're eating our popcorn and red wine, nice and warm, and that are full of insulation. Obviously, that's insulated, but what about these edges that go straight through with no insulation break, called cold bridging? So that does limit the thermal benefit of these blocks, even if they're filled. So you normally find out there's an insulating layer on the inside if it's a solid wall, or within the cavity if it's a cavity wall. You can get sound absorbing ones. I've got some pictures of those later on. They're normally like a maze to trap the sound going through them. Very good at catching sound-borne speech type noise, but they do transmit impact sound quite well, and the more dense the brick is, the better it is at transmitting impact sound. Generally, they're a lovely grey colour. You'll see them in many buildings nowadays. They're just left fair-faced, and they don't bother going on with plaster and paint or anything on them. People are used to seeing them that way now. You do get other colours, of course, and they can range from being a very dark grey to almost a white. with your reds and your pinks and your browns and that. A simple Google search and you'll see loads of pictures of them. You get textured surfaces for them. So here's one that's a little bit textured. Here's another one more textured. There's two reasons for that. Sometimes you can get a textured one which gives a really good grip, a key if you're going to put render on it, and it'll stick on it really well. Or you just want it to be exposed and be aesthetically pleasing. I find them more pleasing the darker the sunglasses I wear. You get different strengths, just like bricks. You get different strengths. Some of them suitable for damp conditions underground, and others are not. We talk about those in a sec. So let's go and have a look at the types we can get. Aha, I knew this would get in the way somewhere. Get out of the way. Some people can call them, and there are a slight difference between some of them, but autoclaved aerated concrete, AAC. If you see that, we're talking about these concrete blocks. If you look at them carefully, they look as though they're made out of a dense honeycomb almost, because you can see tiny little gaps in the faces of them. They come basically in four types. There's the solid ones, and obviously these ones up here are solid. The one I'm hiding there is cellular, so it's got cells in it. You can get hollow ones where that's completely empty in the middle there, it's only got the ends. And you can get acoustic ones, which we have a look at in a second. You get two categories, not as bad as bricks. You get categories 1 and 2. Cat 1 are the best. They tend to be, there's a standard set out for their absorption, their shrinkage, and all those technical issues. And they are generally 5% or less within those standards. Surprisingly, they even allow that much variation. Category 2 can be up to 10 or 12% variation. So they're almost like seconds. But if they're not going to be seen, they're going to be covered over, or maybe the economy, because they'll be a bit cheaper, they're good. Cat 1s are the ones we normally go for. As you can see up here, they're standard sizes, so they're 440 long and 215 high. You can go to 300 high, and it depends on your dimensional arrangement you've got. Remember I told you you only ever go down to half a brick, so you want to make sure measurements on your designs go to a half a brick. Well, the same thing with these. It could dictate the ones you're going to use. They're quite easy to cut, by the way. Not like bricks. They're not too bad to cut. They're made out, as bricks are made out of natural, I was going to say ingredients there. Sounds like a chocolate pudding, doesn't it? Natural ingredients. Here you don't see clay, but you get granite, crushed up granite, crushed gravel, and crushed limestone are mixed together. And the ones with the gravel and the granite in make the densest blocks. And the more dense the block is, the stronger it is under compression. And of course they're heavier to use. Mid to low density ones, they use blast furnace slag, some expanded clay, bit of fly ash maybe, and some pumice. They all come out of furnaces. They're lighter. They have a benefit. They're not as strong under compression because they're not as dense, but they do have a slightly better sound and thermal insulation value than the dense blocks do. How they're made is quite easy, and the best thing I could do is I've got this thing here, but I'm just going to run this video. I hope the sound comes out, because this is the easiest way of showing you how they're made. I can always talk over it. There's a truck. Quite old, the driver, isn't it? So they go and pick up the gravel and the crushed granite. Big boys' toys, or I should say big person's toys nowadays. Goes along, gets sorted, gets washed. Of course, you mix all the stuff together like a good cake. And you can use different mixes. different specifications to create different densities and properties. Now comes your raw mix ready. Now we make them into little blocks. Come on, show us a block. They're making millions of these things every day around the world. There you go. Squash them. You can sun dry these if you want to, but they're better off if they're fired slightly. They just let them dry naturally in this process. Just like concrete dries naturally. Difficult in a hot climate because they might dry out too quickly. I think architects will get very excited about that colour. Pretty boring job making them. Yeah, that's the colour coding for the density of those blocks. So when they get to site, you know what density they are and where they should be used.
They do that over here, Kevin?
They do some of it over here, yeah. I think with this virus thing going on at the moment, it's proving the benefit of having some manufacturing in your own country instead of relying on everything imported. So wrap them up just like they do with pallets of bricks, and off it goes to the side. So I can skip that now, and I'll get rid of it. And the only reason I actually played that one while we're doing this was because some people don't watch the videos and they're quite useful. Now, when you actually build these things, you use mortar joints just like you do with brickwork, and you can use quite wide mortar joints like brickwork, or they've got this thin joint process which we use. And notice how little mortar there is. I mean, literally all the mortar's doing is taking up the slight undulations and differences between the faces and the bottoms there, and sort of managing to adhese them together slightly, but they tend to stay there under their own weight more than anything. So they're made. It's exciting stuff to watch them being made. Density, very straightforward. The weak ones got about 2.9 megapascals because we use metric systems, and they can go all the way up to 40 or slightly above 40 if you want. They're really, 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 sort of quite strong. That's the compressive strength. Their density goes from like 400 to, I've seen some of them up to about 2,800. I mean, they are so dense. And you can get special ones made that are even denser than that for X-ray shielding walls in hospitals and things. Sometimes, generally they'll be colour-coded so you can recognise on site what they are. Some countries will use a different coding system, but they're all coded. And each block should be coded, so when you break up the pallet, you don't make a mistake. There's some links, and I won't show these. I'll let you do these later on because the PDF of this is already up there. That's just showing you how they test them. Basically, they crush one to death. A couple of tests there. But remember, you can't bend them and you can't pull them. Okay, they're only strong under compression by putting weight on them. That's where they come into their own. You can build with them, as you saw a picture earlier, and reinforce the hollow parts by putting metal rebars, reinforcement in, and then filling it with concrete. And then that does give it some tensile strength, normally used to retaining walls. Durability. Well, it's a strange question, durability, when something's basically concrete, more or less. But durability, and when you're asked a question about the durability of any material, it's not just blocks, bricks, it's wood, it's metal, whatever it is, it's difficult to give an exact answer because it always depends, in this case, on the category of the material, the block, but it also depends on the exposure, as I say in the last bit there, the general lifespan, on a normal environment, not on a seafront or anything like that. Normally expect them to go for at least 50 to 80 years, and undoubtedly they'd go longer than that if they're looked after well. But it always depends on the exposure they're put under, the load they're put under, and how they've been erected, and what detailing's been put on them for shedding water and things. That all comes into force there. The majority of the blocks are suitable for below damp-proof courses, i.e. where it's damp. They don't mind sulphate soils too much, so they're good for that sort of stuff. They're no good when it's really, really cold. They don't like the cold. They can actually crack and shatter if they get too cold for too long. But if you're going to use them below damp-proof course level, you want to make sure they're at least an 8 megapascal. They've got good resistance to wear, just general people rubbing up against it and that. If you go and drive down it with a forklift truck, you're going to gouge it. But that's what I'd call an impact damage, really. So they're not as good with impacts. In fact, a large force will crack them quite easily. They'll fracture, but they're easy to cut out and replace. Bricks are much more fiddly to do. These are so much easier to cut out and replace. If you use them in an area, say a warehouse, and it's either side of the doorway or at the end of the racking system where the forklifts and the trucks might be turning and might hit them, then we normally put in a bit of Armco or something just to protect the walls. That's a design thing. Fixability is always a question. How do you fix things to it? I mean, when you're building, you're going to want to fix your door frames, your window frames, all that sort of stuff to them. As long as it's not the weakest, the least dense ones, 90% of them, you can screw straight into them. So you can nail or screw into them. Normally you want about a 2-incher, so about a 50mm nail or screw will go into it. So that's really good for doing your door frames and that when you're constructing. Cupboards, depends on the weight and what's going in the cupboard. You might get away, you might have to start using wall plugs here. So you drill a little hole, you hammer those in, and then you put your screw in, and it expands against the sides of the hole, so the friction holds them up. And then if you want really heavy stuff, you have to put in one of these expanding epoxy anchors. So you drill the hole, shove it in, and when you screw the thing in, the epoxy's broken and it glues it in, basically. Now, that's good for if you're going to hook yourself on working off of a roof. Now, what I can say, I found this site, I looked at loads of sites, and this one was really good. I know it's UK, but it doesn't matter. If I follow this, it's a really, really good site for you to go and get lots of information of, because they do these technical sheets. They've got lovely designs, lovely details and sections and drawings. And being Britain, it's probably in isolation at the speed we're going at. Here we go. So they manufacture concrete blocks, and you can get brochures and technical guidance notes. So they're all in here for you. So if I hit technical guidances, I shouldn't have done that because it's probably going to take ages to go. Oh, here they are. I've got to pick one. So if I want to pick one, of concrete block fact sheets, and there's a list of them on the different types of concrete block. There's one on the thin joint mortar brochure. So if you want to find out more about this, or you're trying to give a bit more of an angle to an answering the assignment or something, then just go in here and have a look and use it and reference it. No problem to referencing that at all. Quite happy for you to do that. So they're easy to fix too. They're not a great problem. A lot of people struggle with things like plasterboard walls and that, but concrete block work, not a problem. I just want to reiterate to people, because I know some people haven't been doing this, you've got to read the essential readings, and this is for the thermal properties of them. If you go to pages 44, 46, it's completely explained. Okay? And if you've got more questions on these, generally they're sort of not that efficient. They're more or less on a par with a brick, I suppose, a clay brick. You can stuff the insulation into the holes, but it doesn't perform drill, because this is where I said that you've got the blocks the structure of the block, as I was pointing out, the sides and that, actually bypass the insulation altogether, and we call that a cold bridge. Concrete transfers a lot of heat, so stuffing the holes and hoping that's going to work on its own, probably not going to be right. The concrete centre one here will tell you an awful lot, and it's got a little software program you can download where you can calculate what insulation you need using concrete blocks. Obviously, the dense blocks aren't so good. The lightweight blocks, because they've got more little holes in them and that, air pockets and things, they're better insulators. Still not fantastic, but better. The dense ones, obviously, are heavier, but they don't insulate, as I said above. But their thermal mass can absorb heat during the daytimes when it's warm, and when it's cold in the evening, they'll actually radiate the heat back into the house to help even out the internal temperature fluctuation. So they're good for that sort of thing if you're designing a passive building, maybe. So they're quite useful for that. I do recommend it. I'll just show quickly. If you go to the Concrete Centre, they're very good. The Concrete Association of Australia, Aaron, he runs that. He told me to go to this one, and it's got loads of stuff. You can register if you want to and download more stuff than they let you have free. But that's worth a good look at as well. It might be useful for some of your other units when you get to materials. Concrete in fire, there's not much to say about it. It performs excellently, absolutely excellently. Now, I showed you that manufacturer's site, Thomas Armstrong. Well, this comes off of their blocks, so there's the thickness of your block, and it will tell you how many hours it'll actually go. So the load bearing wall with no finish, if you put plasterboard finish on both sides, you'll get double the fire resistance. Cellular dense. So these are just examples, but they all last really well, and they all meet the building regulations of the BCA. Some cases you have to put a plasterboard liner in them. If you want to, you can click that and you can watch them try to set fire to a block. As with some of the other videos, watch it at least 10 times speed. So concrete blocks, they're good. The only thing that lets them down from fire resistance is the quality of the construction, how thick the mortar joints are, and what density of block there is. But the density of block doesn't make much difference at all to them. They're still quite acceptable. The downfall of with all walls, not just block and brick, but lightweight, plasterboard walls, whatever, is when you have a penetration going through that wall. You might have a water pipe or an air conditioning duct or a fire sprinkler system going through the walls. That's always a massive weak point in your fire resisting structure, and you have to use the right fire stops, they're called. You can buy them and fit them on. I've never found a building when I've been inspecting them that complied 100%, because I've always found penetrations that don't comply. So be very wary of those. But
I don't think they exist, Kevin. You don't get a compliant building.
I've never found one.
No, me neither.
In Britain, I never found one. And here, I've never found even more. I've found them that don't comply for more fundamental reasons here. I looked at an office building for Blue Care a few years ago. Not only did I find that the penetrations through the walls and the penetrations through the floors weren't sealed at all, when I got to the roof space, because it was in tenancies, there was no separation at all in the roof space. It was one big roof space.
It's pretty common. It's a common find.
I know it is, but you have to go and stick your head up to find it. This one, it was only 4 years old or something like that. It had been fully certified by someone.
I'll believe it.
Yeah. And they wonder why we have problems. Fire, so they're good at fire. Don't worry about fire for them. I sent you a little paper on this one earlier today. It's fairly straightforward. They do dampen the sound fairly well if it's airborne sound, like we're speaking now, so it would separate offices and classrooms quite well. But if you start banging chairs and things against it and bouncing balls and stuff, then you'll hear it straight through. And as I said with brickwork, if you haven't gone from the structural floor to the structural ceiling, then it's just going to go over the top and bridge it anyway. Using them for external walls on a busy road is fairly good because that's airborne sound. Difficult to get the same level of insulation if you've got lightweight ones or you've got a lightweight frame. Masonry products, they're available to do as a single skin wall. You find that in schools and doctors' surgeries and things like that. But often with those, you might have to put an extra skin on the walls to absorb the impact. So you'd probably end up with timber battens on rubber washers fixed against the blockwork wall with a plasterboard skin over the top and the little cavity filled with glass wall insulation. Okay, so if you want to, the paper I sent you talked all about that. We don't need to go into it in massive detail at the moment. I've been told not to go too far into detail because you've got materials too where we pick up some of this. The attractiveness. Blocks are widely used. Yes, you don't have to hide them anymore. Years ago, they were something that you mustn't see them, but now it's quite acceptable to have them as a visual surface. I can do some great things with them. If you've got them outside, then it's useful to put anti-graffiti coatings on them because if you get people spraying on an untreated blockwork wall, it soaks in a little bit. It's very difficult to get off. If I show you just this one here, these links for you to go to, this will just show us a couple of buildings, like that one we just saw was blockwork, believe it or not. Rendered blockwork. Come on, catch up. There's that one. It's all block. You can see the joints in it, and then they've obviously cut them. They've hand cut them on site to get those shapes because you can cut. They're very easy to cut. More blockwork with a textured face. It's the grey building in the background. That's the blockwork there. That's concrete blocks, but that's the big blocks they've had made. That was all prefabricated. Rather like the tiles were on the Opera House. And you can make them look quite smooth as well. So don't think they're ugly. They don't have to be ugly. They're quite good. That one there, I can't remember what that was. Just to show you so you know it's there. You can ignore it if you're not interested in it. Oh yeah, this was just a Google thing showing you all the different finishes and different colours you can get. They're quite versatile. Is that it? Then that's your concrete blocks for you. Oh, sorry, this one here, that's an acoustic block. As you can see, it's designed to sort of trap the sound inside, like a little maze. You'll find you really wouldn't use those unless it was something like a recording studio, a theatre, a cinema, something really, really quite big. So there we go for concrete blocks. So that's the ones with the insulation shoved in, see? So they shove that straight in. But of course, if it's in contact, as I said, the heat transfer goes through these joints here. And you can, on the inside, you might even see that pattern where you're getting condensation and discolouring on the internal surface of a wall. So you've got to be careful with that one. I think that's it. Oh, that's the reinforced wall. So you can, if you've got them, you can put expanded metal lath, which is just metal, which bonds them together, or you can put reinforcing bars in like this and then fill the voids with concrete, and you end up with one structure. It's quite useful for load bearing and retaining walls. Retaining walls would need some moisture drainage in them as well. So that seems to stop us for that little presentation, which was very quick. As I said, I've overlooked calcium silicate bricks. So I'm going to record a 5-minute just on those, and I'll just send you all a link to those. I've locked my dogs out because they keep whining too much of the wine. The little one would love to get hold of this. Complete pissing. So now I've been sitting down. I've got a few more draft assignments to work my way through first thing in the morning, and they'll all be back to everyone who's waiting. I've had a good handful that have already gone back to people. The obvious patterns that appear to be coming out are not everybody has actually looked at the example report that I gave as a PDF. So really, if you're going to send it to me, at least have a cover and a contents page in if you can. That's helpful for me. Some people have got a contents page, but it's the manual contents page they've typed. They haven't used Word to do it. Does everyone know how to do that in Word?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, because I'm recording,
Yeah.
I'll just do one so people watching the recording know. So if I share my screen just for a minute or two, I'll just show it, and hopefully they can get the hang of it. Because it seems to be cropping up several times. I don't want to go away. Finished with. Let's find a Word document. This is for those people who don't know how to do it. A lot of you do, some of you don't. Okay, several little things to do. So I've got a cover sheet there. So there's my cover sheet, done. I want to go to another page now. Well, don't hit the return bar. You go up, things in the way again. You go up to layout, you go to breaks, and you do a section break. And it automatically gives you a new page. Now we want to do something else. So if you want to do an automatic contents page, you go to references, table of contents, and it's so hard to click it. And it's there. Okay? Now there's nothing in there yet. So a couple of blankies. So I go back and I want to start another page. So I go breaks, next page. And then I'll just type something as a heading, subheading. All right. Now, I won't pick them up because the automatic table only picks up certain things. So if I go to the home button, this is where you do it. Now, for people who've used one that's already set up and you've got blue text and things, on any one of these, you can right-click, modify, and then you can change it to the right font. You can change it to the color that you want it to be. So you've got fonts and things and paragraphs. You can hit paragraph, and you can make sure you're on your 1.5 line spacing, which is easier to read. So that's how you go and modify those. So we want that to be a heading. So we go to heading. You can use title if you want. Bang. Then that's going to be maybe the question. And that's going to be another one. I'm not mucking about with numbers up there. And if you click this, and you click update, you know it's not going to work, don't you? It's already picked these up as a heading and a subheading. So if you use headings and subheadings all the way through, you can see how you can build that checklist I was talking about. So you just create your headings and your page breaks of all the questions, and then you go back and fill it in afterwards. So hopefully that makes it a bit easier for people to follow that. So I kept finding that cropping up as a bit of a problem. So let's stop sharing. Go away. So hopefully some people who are having trouble can go for that. Although I've seen a couple which have got really, really good referencing, most are not referencing very much. Okay. Now I've had it a couple of times been asked a question like, you know, what do we do if we get information that's not in the essential or the supplementary readings? Like you've actually gone and done your own research and you found something online. Well, you use it, but you reference it to where it came from, what website it came from. Okay, so you're meant to go out and bring in your own information. We only give you the basics in the essential readings. The supporting readings do fill it out an awful lot more for you, but you really should be out there looking for your own info. Because as you go further down in the course, you'll be expected to do more and more of that. Okay, so just get used to doing it now. It's much easier. A few of them looked a little rushed, but that doesn't matter at the moment. I've sent some back and I've put those contents pages in for them and sorted them out a little bit. Nearly all of them had enough detail in them. They were quite pleasant in the amount of detail. You could use, some people could use illustrations, photographs, diagrams a little bit more, because they save you writing too much. So you don't have to describe how something's put together, you just put a picture in and refer to it. What else is there? That's about it so far. So if you bear that in mind before you send me your ones to look at, then it'll make it a bit quicker to turn them around. I think I've got about 4 or 5 to get back in the morning. I might do one tonight. But thank you for sending them through. It's always very useful to see them, and I'm glad I can send some supporting comments back. I use track changes. If that trips anybody up, just get on Teams and ask, and I can do it with you there and then. What's the cut-off for drafts? Probably Thursday. If I end up with quite a few, like I normally do, I'll just about get them all back by Friday night, Saturday morning. Okay? But if you're sending them on Thursday, then I would anticipate they'd be probably 80% finished by then, and I'm just fiddling with it for you and sending you in the direction. Some people go, have you thought about this? I don't tell you the answer. I raise the question, what about this? So you have to go and fill it in. So I think I'm one of the few people that actually look at a draft. But I think it's helpful. Any questions? There must be some. Really?
The main functions of when you're doing the review, are you looking just at formatting, or are you actually looking at the content contained in the report?
No, I look at the content as well. So if I'm comfortable with the content, then I'm not going to add anything. If you look on the rubrics, you can get 0, 1, or 2. Mm-hmm. If I think it's going to get a 0 for that one, I'm going to comment, because I do not want to give 0. I mean, funnily, I don't want anybody to fail this, because if they fail, it's because I could say it's because they've not got involved, and that is a big point of it. But it's also because I haven't kicked their arse enough and chased them. So, and this is my core job. This is the only bit of the job I like. I don't like all the admin and the research and all that stuff. Mind you, I had a stinking hangover last night. I found out.
Worrying that you had it last night.
All day drinking.
I'm working from home, so that's quite possible. I've deliberately not bought any more beer. No, I found out yesterday, I'm doing a PhD, and there's a unit you have to pass to be able to continue with it. And I've had real trouble with it. They actually found out, as I said before, they found I was dyslexic. I'm only 58, it's taken that long to find out I'm dyslexic. So it's my third and last attempt at the unit, and I passed it.
Hey, well done.
Hey!
So I got the champagne, and my wife had a glass, and I had the rest.
That's a headache.
Yeah, the bubbles. I blame the bubbles. So now there must be some questions that you've got to ask about. I mean, I sent the thing out telling you that the census date was coming, and we lost a few people then, which is good, because you wanted to get out before any money comes due. How's the jobs going for everybody at the moment?
Good at the minute, still going pretty hard.
Anybody lost the job or been put on furlough yet? No, well, good. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that there. The word count, it's a guide. Okay, it's a guide. It's basically saying you don't send me War and Peace. And you don't waffle. I don't want you to waffle. I want you to be to the point. As I said, I don't know how many people bothered to start using EndNote. That's useful for keeping your references. And also, I think you can get the full version of Grammarly through the library, maybe. But even the free version's good. Always run Grammarly over it as well. I find it works quite well. What were we saying before I got sidetracked again? Oh, yeah, you've all still got jobs. Yeah, universities looking at ways of cutting costs. The favourite ones at the moment seem to be cutting back on casual lecturers, not giving us, each year we get like a 2% increase. We won't get that. They want us to cash back, give the university back the leave we've got, so that the university doesn't have to pay us out for it, so we just give it back free.
Does that work the opposite way around if I ask for my fees back?
Yeah.
They're desperately trying because apparently this is hit us really bad. It's what happens when all the universities do the same. Over a few years, the governments keep cutting back the funding. Universities find out, well, if we have foreign students, we can make up the gap. And then you turn off all the travel. Foreign students can't come in. There's a big gap. So they're looking at ways. They're also thinking of reducing their contribution to our super. They are generous. They pay 12.5% at the moment.
Very generous.
But it'll go down to the normal 9 by the look of it. And there will be some early retirements and things like that to try because the salary bill is the biggest expense they've got. All the capital works and everything are on hold. No more recruitment at the moment, all on hold. So, yeah, this virus is having a knock-on effect. So I'm happy because at least my wife, who's a pharmacist at the hospital, her job's secure. Look on the bright side. I've got both my parents suffering from it. My mum's in hospital with it, so, and I can't get back. I found I could get a flight. I can get a flight back in 2 weeks' time because they're booked up. And there's only 3 or 4 a week, and one-way economy is just under $5,000. Whereas normally you could get a return ticket for about $1,400-1,500.
And that's what I paid at Christmas time 3 years ago for 2 of us to go back.
Yeah, but that's
For both of us at Christmas. So.
Yeah, we did Christmas a couple of years ago, so. But it seems like my dad's...
Just with the assignment.
Yes.
Part 3, I think it is, with special bricks.
Special bricks?
Are we talking about standard specials or special specials?
What do you mean by standard and a special special? What do you understand that to be?
Because we've got the standard specials that are in the essential readings, like the bullnose and the angle and cant bricks and everything like that. But then there are also like handmade purpose bricks, like purpose-made bricks.
Yeah, I'd stick with the standard specials.
Just stick with the standard specials?
Yeah, you can put a one-line comment. There's also handmade ones and leave it at that if you want.
Okay, but the ones that are in the essential readings, those are the ones that you want us to talk about?
Yep, they're the best ones to stick with. And don't forget,
Sweet.
Put a picture of it in as well.
I think the confusion comes in because that's asked about in question 3.1, whereas question 3.0 it was talking about specials. And then
I'm quite. I mean, I inherited the questions, so I'm quite.
Oh, okay.
I'm quite flexible on those. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not going to kill anyone for that.
Yeah. No, I assume that's what you meant.
Yeah, I'm not going to be difficult.
And then I think it's 3.3 where we have to talk about the disadvantages of using them.
That's 3.2, that one.
Costs.
Yeah.
For a start. They cost.
Is that the disadvantages of the ones we spoke about, or just special bricks in general?
Disadvantages are general for all of them, really.
Okay. And then you talk about the how you get inconsistency in a project. Do you want us to talk about the inconsistency during manufacturing or actually during a project?
Actually, when you're using them.
Okay.
People not mixing the batches and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Or
Sweet.
if they're using a coloured mortar, and you'll get a colour variation between each batch of mortar they make up on site. I've even seen the site where they use a bucket handle joint on the mortar for the first 12 courses, and then it was a strut joint, at an angle. And I just think, what? Why?
That would have looked shit.
I made them rake it all out again.
Yeah.
It was only 2,500 square feet of brickwork, so it wasn't big. Anything else? Come on, there must be something.
Yeah, I just got a really quick one, Kevin. With the report, I think I read somewhere it said to write with single line spacing, but I think your sample might have been double. Is that right?
My sample was 1.5.
1.5.
And if you want to use 1.5,
Is that what you prefer?
I prefer 1.5. Remember, I inherited this stuff.
Okay.
1.5 is easy to read.
Yeah.
You'll find it
Okay,
easy on
thanks.
your eyes as well. 1.5.
Yeah, right. Yep.
That's the standard PhD requirement as well.
Oh, good. Okay. All right, I'll keep that in mind. Thanks.
Yeah. Anything else? Someone must have some sort of question. Oh, come on. You must have a whinge or a complaint about something. You're very easily pleased. This is not normal.
Well, we're only at the start. I'm sure it'll come.
Well, I mean, I want you to tell me when it comes up so I can correct it for you. There's no point putting it in the bloody comments thing when you have your say at the end, because you've suffered with me making the same cock up, haven't you? And it's not in your interest to do that. You're only helping the buggers who come after you. So if anything pops up, tell us straight away. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is, some people would have noticed that now everybody's comfortable using Teams, and you've been asking questions in the comments posts. All the questions I want to go through the question tab at the top now. And I'll tell you why. You'll type your question in like you normally do. You hit questions and then you just type your question in. And it goes through this chat bot thing, which can automatically answer questions. Now, you will not get any automatic questions. You won't get any automatic answers because it's got no answers in it. All it means is you're giving questions which I then answer and it learns them. So next time the similar question is asked, it'll give the answer. You will not get that because you are the pilot study. You are actually giving it questions to remember. So if you, from now on, if you can put them through that, makes no difference to you. Still looks like the posting format. You just start it with the squiggly at thing, and then when you type Q, it'll come up with questions. Click that, and it's like sending it to the question thing. Where if you wanted to just talk to me and no one else, you just put that squiggly thing and Kevin. Or the whole group, squiggly thing and BLA, and it'll come up as the group. And if you want to talk to each other through it, you just do squiggly thing and then your mate's name. Okay? So have a go. Try a few test questions and I'll give you some test stupidity answers. But the idea is it automates simple questions, like when somebody asks, one person asks, what's the hand-in date for this because it's not clear. Now, assignment 1, what's the date? It's not clear. And I type in, oh, it's the so-and-so. Then the chat thing will go, if anyone else asks that, then it doesn't have to be exactly the same wording. It looks for words in the question. It'll fire back the answer straight away. So if I'm busy, it'll do it automatically if it's got the answer for you. And if you're still not happy with the answer, you've got the chance to go yes or no, and then it'll come to me anyway. I know, it's Big Brother, isn't it? Big Brother. Anything else?
You got a question in the chat there, mate.
Sorry, where? Oh, well, I didn't see it. Sorry, I was looking at all your lovely faces. Melissa. Ah, yes, we dealt with something from Melissa. Question, but my mic is not working for some reason. Okay. I'm struggling with info on manufacturing acoustic absorbing concrete blocks. Sorry, in the paper uploading today. Yeah, there is something in the paper today about it. And if you want more, ask me through the thing, and I'll dig out and send more stuff to you. But as we were saying today in the lecture to start off with, they're extremely specialised. The proper acoustic blocks are, and they're really for theatres and cinemas, things like that. Otherwise, you're relying on the density of them. You can stuff them with insulation, but it doesn't do much good to them.
The same problem. Just spent like an hour and a half trying to find something about how they're made.
Well, they're made exactly the same way. They're still made of the same material as all the others. It's just the pattern of them that's different. And the picture we looked at, it was all zigzaggy. And it had a little bit of glass fibre quilting inside as a barrier. So as the sound went in, the sound waves go into it, they get trapped in there. They can't reverberate back out again.
So they just use a different type of mould, basically.
Yeah. It's as straightforward as that. And they would tend to use the lighter density ones, not the high density, because they don't absorb too well. They reflect. But you can't. Personally, I wouldn't rely on them as my main acoustic barrier anyway. They just help a bit. That's it really. Anything else? You can ask questions that aren't to do with the unit if you want to. Just general unit questions or anything.
Where'd you buy all your Hawaiian shirts from?
Lowe's.
Yeah, I figured that.
Lowe's. I've got another one. And my wife bought it as a joke at Christmas. I've got some nice ones as well. She bought it as a joke at Christmas. And I unpacked it and went, oh, that's all right, put it on. And then there was a little packet for the dog. And it had some treats in it. And he ripped it open. And it was a matching Lowe's thing for the dog. There's a picture of us both standing, I'm standing there and he's next to me, both in our matching top. The actual his one didn't last long because the other dog chewed it up, but in fact I just heard him actually. Come on. There you go. All I could hear was whining at the door. Any other questions? Next week I'm going to wear a gold Diamante jacket. Why not? I didn't see many people having a drink tonight.
I ran out. Need to go to the fridge.
Oh dear. Oh, I got halfway through mine, so. Well, if there are no more questions, I'm going to go and have a look at another draft assignment. My wife sounds like she's watching reality TV. And that's not good. Not good. So, as you see, still working at home. That's going to be a long time now, so. Are you all socially separating well?
I wish I could get some social separation from my kids.
I've got that. Kid number one's in the family home in Cleveland, paying bugger all rent for it. The son number two is in Dubbo with his fiancée where they work. So I've separated. And the parents are in London. One at home, one in hospital. So we'll see how that pans out. So as long as everyone stays nice and safe and healthy, that's good. Wash your hands before you do anything else, like go to the toilet or get friendly with the wife. Was that wrong? I'm sorry.
That doesn't happen when you're isolated, mate.
Because that could be get friendly with the husband or the boyfriend as well. We never know. No one ever said I was politically correct, and I like loads of jokes. I can't tell most of them because I'm still recording. All right, then I'll get this popped up as soon as I possibly can. Probably get it up first thing tomorrow morning because it's on the computer. If you get any questions about it, just start again in the morning. Remember questions through that Q-bot thing, the questions one at the top. That would be very helpful to me, please. Would you like to do other units this way? Are you finding this any better than Moodle?
Still find it's a lot better for the chat, but I still struggle to find documents in it compared to Moodle.
Yes, yeah, I agree with you because the IT people set this up, and there's 20 units being trialled on it at the moment, and quite a few of us, apart from those doing education, we've all said we don't like the way it's set up. There's a thing called, if you look on the top, there's a tab called the class, is it the class notebook or something? We all want to run it straight through that. So you go straight on and you've got the general tab just for the chat, and then you hit class notebook and it's all there. It's all there, but it's all fragmented at the moment. So.
But the chat part of it's great because plenty of people are asking questions that
either
I needed to know the answer to, or I hadn't realised yet that I needed to know the answer to it. So it's been pretty handy.
Yeah, I don't realise I need the answer to things. My wife tells me that. Yeah, well, I didn't realise I was so imperfect.
Really?
I thought I was practically perfect, but I'm not. No, so yeah, we want to lay it out a different way. So, of course, if you can't find something, just message me and I'll send you the link to it. Because all those links are all stored in Teams under the Files tab. So they're all there. But if I send you a link, it's easy, isn't it? When you hit the link, can you download it?
Yeah. It's just easier having Moodle where it's got it under week 1, week 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
narrow it down.
That's the one thing. Then when it comes to having to say later on, that would be useful to say that the logical way in Moodle is better because this isn't set out quite the same.
But you can go into the
And there's
files
no
tab and
reason,
look
there's
under.
no reason that class notebook cannot be a complete reflection of the same structure as Moodle. There's no reason. They just won't let us do it. So, but that's one of the learnings from it. So I may actually just go and change my one anyway. If I get bored, I might just change the whole thing out. So it'll just be duplicated and triplicated. So, all right then. Well, I'll let you go then if you've had enough. I'll stop the recording.